All right. Welcome aboard, everyone. It literally just started downpouring. Let me look up. Maybe the weather's changed. I was just looking it up, and it'll take a second for people to trickle on anyway. So we got a few minutes.
Yeah.
Let's see. Maybe it's just. It says heavy rain for 58 minutes, followed by light rain. Well, maybe we'll get lucky.
That's it. We'll tread water for an hour and see what happens.
Yeah, right. If the power stays on, I need to get a Generac. I really do.
Have my link.
No, don't want to watch that. Don't even want that page. I'm trying to bring up Wambaits. So I've got some visuals because I don't have any baits here.
I've got some that I can. I was working on packing some up.
Right on.
I'm just working on some of my lighting. Looks like
hey, here comes somebody here. Packed out. Well, while we're waiting, something interesting happened to me today.
Yeah, man.
The Elite Series bass guys were just down the street.
I saw that one that were buzzing by on the St. John's for you.
Yeah. Well, that's actually the barge canal that comes into the lake that I live on.
Okay.
It's called Rodman Reservoir.
Yeah.
And back in the day, I think like in the 90s or 80s, I can't even remember, but there was a politician who wanted to create a cut through for shipping containers across Florida. So their plan was to come in the St. John's at Jacksonville, come down to here. They cut this barge canal in and they made this lake.
Oh, nice.
There's a ditch, like a 7-mile, 12-foot deep ditch that runs the entire length. It's about 10,000 acres of water.
Yeah.
But they just flooded a forest. They didn't.
There's all kinds of sunken water, like sunken wood and trees and stuff. That's crazy.
This is the kind of place you come if you hate your lower unit, you know. So they come rolling in here because storms had jacked up the St. John's and the eelgrass is dead.
Yeah.
And it's coming back right now. There's a lot of it hitting here, but it's not back in the river, and it just makes the fish so hard to find. So all those guys came running up in here, and I just spent the day driving around watching where they were fishing.
That's cool. To collect all those waypoints, eh?
Yeah. I ran out of fuel. I got to go back on the trolling motor.
Nice.
So anyway, all right, we got some folks coming in. Welcome aboard. Hey, there's Frank.
There's Frank. I thought he was going to be here.
Yeah, but Frank's always here, man.
Yeah, man. He's one of my OGs.
Oh yeah, mine too, man. Frank is on it. Thanks for all the support, Frank. Yeah, I don't know if you guys can hear it. It's a downpour going. It just hit. Like, I mean, it's like as soon as I tried to start doing something, it's like, oh, let's have a tornado. So hopefully the power stays on. It's already flickered a few times. Who knows? But anyway, welcome Wes from Wambaits, longtime supporter. And
for sure, yeah, it's cool to be on this side of the camera now. I've been on so many times of the chat version of your live, so it's cool to be on this side.
Yeah, man, I'm glad to have you on. So
I was looking to see that your YouTube stuff is blowing up too. That's awesome. I mean, I followed you since you've been on with Andrew Hayes and stuff like that on Taco Talk.
Right on.
Transition through all your evolutions here. It's pretty cool to see what
yeah, it's been really interesting. It's funny how it seems kind of redundant to me at this point, like you get new people coming along, you answer the same questions over and over again, you kind of make the same videos sometimes over and over again. I try to mix it up, add different information, whatever, but and then all of a sudden, like something that you've done a dozen times just blows up. Yeah. Like it's like crazy. I don't know. The last one that really blew up, it was a YouTube thing, a short. It was just at the feeder at the pond that I'm taking care of. We've been tracking, and it's got over 1 million views.
That's awesome.
That one short, yeah. And why that one particular one when there's been many others like it? Can't figure that out. So anybody trying to climb up on the social media stuff, don't be afraid to repeat yourself. Just keep firing and do it every day. I think that was the key for me on all of these things, being consistent daily. You got to feed the monkey.
That's my biggest challenge. I can't. I get into that production mode and I'm just bang, 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 bang. I'm not thinking about I got to create content, right? I'm not thinking about taking videos and stuff like that. Every now and then I'll make a video or shoot a picture or something like that of something I'm working on, but more often than not, just try to get through it, right?
Right. And I think it's really hard because, trying to do you're basically doing 2 jobs or 3 really. You're an editor, you're a cameraman, and you're doing what you're doing, so filming
Plus, I got my full-time stuff. Like I don't do this on the side, so this is not my full-time, right? I got my full-time job, I got my family, I got my house to look after and stuff like that too. So this is
and that just becomes so. I say it's for me. It was a workflow. Thanks, Cliff, man. It was a workflow change for me where even the simplest thing, like just film it and, a 1 minute, you need to take 1 minute of your day. You need a short format. And if you post anything once a day, post on YouTube Shorts. If you do anything.
Yeah, that's the one that I haven't given much attention at all to YouTube.
Yeah. Now I could definitely see like the bait building process, bait making process. Actually, Jen Kravisi, she paints for Mike Buka over at Bullshad. She's very successful with her YouTube for her painting. And it's very simple setup. She just puts the phone right over. She's not engaging with the camera like this. She's just doing her job, and she's got good audio, and she shows people how to paint. And she does, she's doing great on YouTube. But again, it's just that consistency, and don't be afraid to make it like super simple, just the most basic thing. Sometimes those are the most popular things.
Yeah.
Almost the things that you overlook that you assume people know, assume nothing.
Don't assume anything. Yeah. No, that's cool.
Yeah. So tell me how you got into making baits. Like, what's the story about Wham?
Oh man. Well, I mean, relatively, I don't have the same story that most people do of the, I used to go up to my uncle's cottage and we'd fish for a little bit and stuff like that, catch some bluegills and rock bass, whatever. But it was never really like a big serious part of my life until like later, like maybe 4 or 5 years ago. Started picking it up again and just dove headfirst into the fishing part of it and actually, researching all the popular lures and how to catch fish and stuff like that. And just walking up and down at the Bass Pros and the Cabrillas and stuff like that we have here. It was a lot of the same stuff, right? Like it was a lot of the same. And don't get me wrong, I know we're mimicking worms and bluegill and forage fish, crawfish, stuff like that. So there's only so much creativity that you can have within that space. But then I was using Yamamoto Senko or a Strike King, whatever, and they were just durability issues and stuff like that, just not lasting for more than 1 or 2 fish if you're lucky. And man, it was frustrating, right? So I'm thinking every time I'm casting out and catch fish, whatever, break off and you're re-rigging and stuff like that. I'm just thinking like in the back of my head, like there's got to be a better way. You know what I mean? Like, and that was kind of my process, and not like an arrogant way. Like I know people have been doing this for like 100 years, right? So I know that it's a process, right? But just in the back of my head, like I know there's got to be something, something that we can make it better, right?
Oh yeah.
So I mean it was that process, and I just thought of what if I like look into making baits, right? Like if I can't find what I want to throw or what I like to throw, whatever, I like to kind of march the beat of my own drum a little bit anyways, through all walks of life. So I'm not the guy that kind of follows the crowd on stuff a lot of the times. So I thought, what if I could put my own, personal flair on some baits and stuff like that and throw that and, just, messing around and stuff for myself, friends and family, stuff like that. So I start researching and going through YouTube, reading internet articles and stuff like that. And just going through the whole 9 yards of it and like learning ins and outs of everything. And I spent probably 3 or 4 nights, or 3 or 4 months, like every night, pouring over that kind of stuff, all that content, and just kind of digesting everything and processing and everything.
Mm-hmm.
And it got to the point where I was like, I need to at least try it. You know what I mean? Like I've gone down this rabbit hole far enough that in terms of like researching how all this stuff works. And at this point I need to try it and try to do it and see what happens. Right.
Sure.
So I just, talked to the wife and she said, yeah, cool. Just, as long as it makes sense and it's, within budget and whatever else, you don't go crazy with it. Sorry. It just went from there. So started making worms and started selling them to, friends and coworkers and stuff like that. And everybody was saying, they're great. Like, and getting feedback from other people and, catching on them, they're catching on them. That just started kind of snowballing. Right. And going from there. And, a couple years later, here we are.
That's awesome, man. It's funny. You remind me, like when I graduated from school, like I had this idea for my pond business. I was working for a pool company. So pool management and pond management is very similar. Water testing and algae control. And I very much went headlong, into that. But if I didn't have that idea, because I graduated in 97, there were no glide baits. There were no oversized baits. So when I left school, I in the back of my mind, I was like, if I was to make a bait, basically it would have been a glide bait because everything on the market was too small. Like there was a complete disconnect between the size of the fish that the bass were eating and the size of the bass lures that they were selling. Right.
Yeah. All that stuff is a relatively new market.
Yeah. Well, yeah. I mean, even the guys, out in California, I think are started the glide baits with the trout, the trout stocking guys. But that was, if I didn't have, because I just poured myself into the other job, I probably would have been over with some balsa wood, whittling out some hand-sized, bluegill imitations.
Yeah, man.
I just didn't have time to do both.
And that's the biggest challenge, honestly. I mean, it's a concerted effort to make time for this. You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
Like,
yeah.
Especially pre-show season, you're just killing yourself. I was redlining for like 4 months, just zero sleep, trying to get everything done. Right. So, and balancing that with the regular life. So
it's a tremendous amount of work.
It is. Yeah. And a lot of people don't even realize, I can spend 3 or 4 hours in one night just coming up with one color or one pattern, and it's not even producing anything meaningful. You know what I mean? Like it's just mixing colors and getting the balance right and everything like that. And hopefully, people appreciate the energy and the effort that goes into it.
Oh, I think they absolutely do. What's your best seller? What do you really move the most of?
It's the wobbling worms. Do I have it here? Yeah, I do. It's these guys here. It's like a wacky worm, but it's a little bit different. I don't know if you can. So it's got this bulge in the.
Oh yeah.
There we go.
I got you. Okay. Do you hook it in? So you're hooking in the middle.
So you hook in the middle. You're just like a regular wacky worm.
Yeah.
And these guys are stretchable. Like you're gonna have
durable plastic.
I mean, guys are catching dozens of fish on one worm.
No kidding.
Oh,
are they using the like the normal band, or are you just hooking it right to the worm?
Yeah.
Nice.
So I mean that's the whole point of what I try to do is give people durability and make sure that they can enjoy themselves fishing and they're not worrying about the worm slipping off or breaking off and ripping every couple fish. Right. That's not fun. I want big thing for me is just enjoying the process, enjoying the outdoors, and just having a good time fishing. You don't want to be like grumbling and mumbling every time you're putting a new worm on. You know what I mean? So
no, that's smart. And I like the design too. It's like, again, sometimes, like you said, you got to be, sometimes it's the difference that makes the difference. I've never seen a worm that looks quite like that.
And that's, I said it on another podcast I was on about a month ago. And I was like, that is one of the biggest compliments that I take, that I take the most appreciation from, is that people say like, I've never seen something like that before.
Yeah.
Because that was my whole point of doing this, is I want to, give people a different look on a proven tactic, but a different perspective, of a different look on that.
I think that's critical on pressured water.
100%.
Absolutely. I mean, in my world of pond fishing, you don't, come on. There's not the fishing pressure, let's be honest, it's not as hard to catch a fish in a small pond, especially in the ones where I'm managing, where they're stacked in there like cordwood. It's not a difficult process, right?
Yeah. Here's a little bit different. There's a ton of pressure on our bodies of water here. Ton of pressure.
Yeah. And, right out here, literally, like, I can just 1,200 feet from here tomorrow morning when the sun's coming up, there'll be a fishing guide right there in the cove I like to fish, with jumbo live shiners and 2 clients banging them out. Just there's so much live bait pressure here, and I'm not really a live bait fisherman. I much prefer, just lures and
artificials.
tackle. Artificials. But yeah, that's interesting. What else you got? You got any swim baits you like?
I don't do any huge stuff like a guy like Brendan Brown or anything like that, but I'm just gonna open this one up. I just did these for a pike tournament that's happening when pike opens up here. And
see, that's what I want to talk about too. Some larger size baits or different size baits for different species that we could incorporate to largemouth. I bet that would work.
So that is
nice.
I'm trying to get a good light on it.
Yeah. I like the black. Black works really well in Florida for some reason.
Black, and I got the red eye on there.
Yeah.
So that'll look pretty good. But I got those in black and white. Just simple for pike. Guys going out to smash those gators.
What kind of hook do you put that on?
You can put like an 8/0 beast hook.
Like a belly weighted hook?
Yeah.
I like those hooks.
Yeah, man, those are good hooks.
Yeah.
It's hard to get them up here. There's only a few different places that find them, that you can find them at. But that was a mold made by Goblin Baits, and he's down in the States.
Okay.
And I just got the mold from him. It was something a little bit different in the swim bait universe.
Mm-hmm.
And it was something that caught my eye. He said, do you want to? I just said, hey, I messaged him on Instagram and said, hey, that looks really cool. And he was like, well, I'm selling the mold for it. If you want me to pour a couple, I can. I'm like 100%. I'll take a couple molds and see what happens, right?
Yeah.
So it's been a while since until I got into that part of it. Just I roll stuff out incrementally. I don't want to put everything out at one time, right? So,
sure.
Stuff like that is giving guys what they're looking for, hopefully. And that's relevant to the season that's coming up, because we have so all of our Ontario stuff is in seasons, right? We have open and closed season for pike, walleye, bass, trout, all kinds of stuff. So trout's opening up. Yeah. In my zone, I'm in zone 16. That encompasses most of Southern Ontario, like the more populated parts of Southern Ontario. Trout's opening up this coming Saturday.
Wow.
And then pike and walleye open up in May.
So that's cool though. You can kind of stage your lures production towards the different seasons, right?
Yeah, because
we don't have until it's always bass season here. There's no
exactly. Yeah, I'm jealous. Yeah, but bass doesn't open up till third week in June in zone 17, and then fourth Saturday in June in zone 16 where I am.
How long does it run?
Runs until November 31st. So I mean it's okay. You get the fall rush in there too, which is nice. But it's it makes it really a novelty to have bass season open.
Oh yeah, I mean, I don't know. It's interesting. It's like here we are. The game, like the hunting seasons, will work that way. You have turkey season.
Yeah, we have that. We have that here too. Yeah.
Yeah, very similar to that, but the fishing's a little bit different. I'm trying to think. We used to have a trout season in Georgia, but they were all stock trout anyway, and they just opened it up. And it's been a couple decades ago. I think trout season's been year round for 15 years probably now in Georgia. But we did used to have a trout open and closer like that.
Yeah.
But that just changed. It's such a for North Georgia, it was such a money draw, you know, that I think that they opened it up just to keep people trying to keep people fishing up there, you know.
Yeah, that makes sense. I'm getting called out in the chat. I'm reading this. I'm getting called out for not representing the podcast that I was on, and it was the average Ontario. Yeah, I didn't. I don't want to. Those guys are huge, awesome guys. So I want to make sure I do them justice. And
absolutely, man. Yeah. I do the same thing. I've been on so many podcasts at this point that I forget. Like,
I know.
I was down at the Elite Series weigh-in, and there was a lady I got in a conversation with, and she's doing a new podcast. She's on the radio, local radio station here, her and her husband. I'd mentioned their name, but I can't even remember it, you know. And we were just talking social media and stuff, kind of like we did at the beginning of this. And then before very long, I was doing a local radio spot down there. I was on the radio with them. It's funny how things work out, but it's we certainly don't mean to forget anybody that I've gone on, and it's just I've been very fortunate that there's been quite a few, and it's hard to keep up. And sometimes people drop out, you know, they don't do it anymore.
Sure. Yeah.
But Drew brings up something here that again, that in my back of my brain, I've never seen before, and that is a tadpole lure. Bass tadpoles are 99% water. There's literally no nutritional value. I saw some frog eggs in the pond the other day, long, stringy, black looking eggs. And, you know, the tadpoles are coming, but the bass just will not tolerate that. They absolutely hammer. There's, again, no nutritional value in them whatsoever, but they don't let that ride. And
I think I saw that on your feed last year. The same thing, just getting hammered. All these frog eggs getting hammered by bass.
Yeah, I think we have a delay. I'm on a delay.
Uh-oh.
Are you on a? Can you see me?
I can see you. I might be frozen for some reason.
I think you're frozen. I got your audio, but you're frozen for a second. Maybe it'll come back.
Here's hoping.
I don't know if I can do something from my end. I can click remove. I don't know if that's a good idea or not. Does anybody know about StreamYard? Let's try it. No, still frozen. Is your audio still there?
Yeah, audio's still there.
Yeah, I don't have you up on my screen now. That was a
mistake.
Maybe
that's better for everybody. They don't have to look at my open mug.
And you're the one with technical difficulties. Now, now the power will go out.
You're right.
I'm going to try again. Give it a second. Come on, computer. You can do it. Uh-oh. Well, we lost him for a second. Let me run through the there we go. Add him back. There it is.
Oh, there we go. Success.
Sweet.
Hit a few buttons and see what happens.
Yeah, just start pushing buttons. That's a good idea.
That's all it is. Yeah.
That's a good idea. Let's run through the comments here.
I see Jeff enter. Jeff's jigs. You can figure him out. He's got wicked stuff. Chris Very is another one of my OGs. Nice. Michael Bradley. He has the new ship to the States.
Oh, you getting some comments on the podcast?
I'm getting some in here.
Great. Kirk says he's fishing the St. Lawrence.
Oh, sweet.
So anyway, see this. You see what I'm saying? We were just talking about this last night, right? Yeah, tadpoles can be like that big with frog legs that long. Like they can be really, really big. And actually, one thing you can watch for in ponds, if the pond is full of those huge tadpoles, and you'll know it, like you'll be like, wow, there's a lot of tadpoles in this pond. You can put the tackle box up and go home. There's no bass in that pond.
Right, because they're just they would hammer them if they were
They
there.
would not be there if there were. Yeah,
Yeah,
it's that you know they eat them that hard, and again they get no nutritional value from them hardly at all. But
it's just for fun at that point.
They will not tolerate it. Yeah. So I always thought an oversized tadpole, or like the conversation we were having last night, out here these bullfrogs will eat
Are massive.
Dog are huge, and I have not seen. I've caught them on lures and stuff. You know, they're really aggressive. They're big frogs, but I've never seen anybody with a big frog pattern. You'll see a frog like that, or but not anywhere comparable to the size of the frogs that are out there.
Yeah, like I was saying to you, the mimic that I have, the frog mimic that I have, is like 5 inches stretched out, right? But nowhere near what you were talking about.
These frogs have back legs like this long.
That's insane.
They're kicking like a massive amount of kick.
Can't even picture that.
I know, right? That's another thing I'd love to have, just to be able to go to that almost like a subsurface type of popping motion with that. You can get that big leg kick.
Yeah.
3 times and then pause it, man.
And watch it get hammered.
I bet it would.
Yeah, man.
These Florida fish are weird though, man. Like it's different here. It's different than any place I've ever fished here. You can fire them up on jerk baits. Get a pretty consistent bite on them on jerk baits. When I was up north pike fishing, flipping crawfish, he's catching bullfrogs. I think a big bullfrog pattern for Florida would be a solid.
Would be money.
I think it would work. Yeah, I really do. Go back, make sure I didn't miss anybody's comments. Really good at that.
I just get so intent in the conversation that I forget to look at the comments and stuff.
Yeah, it's really hard too when you're alone. It's better when you got 2 people, because one person can talk and the other person can scan and pick stuff
look
up.
At stuff. Yeah, Frank did a good job on that with him when he was on with Debo. Debo never looks at stuff, and then Frank was looking through the comments and pointing them out.
Gotta love Frank, man.
Absolutely.
Yo, there's a good question. Is there a wham pole in the works?
A wham pole? Oh, like a fishing rod? No. I can honestly say I have zero experience or expertise in that.
Yeah,
I mean, maybe down the line I could talk to somebody, but I mean that would be. I got way more things to to look at before a fishing rod. There's lots of other guys out there that know what they're doing for custom rods and rod manufacturers or everything else. That's not a pond I'm going to dip my toe into real fast.
Right. Yeah, it's a very specific art form, really.
A tadpole. Oh, I get it now. A wham pole, as in a tadpole bait. I got you now. Gotcha.
Oh, right on.
Gotcha.
I got you. Oh yeah. Sorry, Chris.
You could almost.
We're old and slow. We don't get the jokes. They go right on. They just go right on by. Hey, there's Brown. What's up, Brennan?
Hey, Brennan.
Welcome.
I was making fun of me for being Canadian earlier. So that's a 3.5 inch leech.
Oh yeah, the leech pattern.
That could almost pass for a tadpole, little tadpole.
I bet that thing's nasty on a drop shot.
Oh, it's a killer on a drop shot.
Head hook like that. I bet those smallmouths just chew the hell out of that thing.
That's why I made it. Yeah.
It's
a nice little flat profile, and it just sits perfectly horizontal in the water. So
really.
Yeah.
That leech is awesome, Drew. I agree, man. That leech pattern's a dirty trick, I bet.
Where's the other one that I came up with?
Mike says the Smallies love the leech.
They will kill it. On my uncle's lake when I was growing up, that's all they would eat is natural leeches, like live leeches. And I came out with that and outfished my uncle 5-1 in one morning.
No kidding. Outfished a live leech?
Yeah.
Were you drop shotting it?
Oh yeah, 100%. Had like a little 1/4 ounce drop shot weight on the bottom and just
just vertical.
Just vertical, yeah. Drop it in front. This is another one. It's something like that.
Oh yeah,
That's
a good
look
one.
on a drop shot.
My gosh, it's raining. Like, how am I gonna have to go build an ark after the podcast, boy?
So this is a little bit newer one.
That stupid thing is freezing again. There we go.
There we go.
Oh, it's all like it's like baffled.
It's ribbed, so it's got like, I don't know if you can see that.
Yeah, I can. It's almost kind of a salamander looking kind of a
and then a little I can't get the mirror. Little ball tail on the back there.
Oh, nice. Okay.
And that gives a nice little wiggle in the water.
Yeah, I bet that would be good on a Ned rig.
It's a little like very fine for a Ned rig, but if you get a little finesse, you could do it with a one-off finesse.
Ned on a spinning tackle. Yeah, nail them.
That's another one that's killer on a drop shot.
Yeah. Just that head hook. That action that you get. I think that's thunder, not a tornado. Tornadoes fire up. They'll come through the forest, man. Trees will be flying. It's a mess.
Sheesh.
Oh yeah. It's just dead quit. Like,
that's the
calm. I get blown away, boys. I appreciate you. Yeah. That's not good, man. When it goes from raining to dead calm like nothing. That, that's no bueno. Because it hasn't been an hour. Oh, that's a good question, Mike. He's asking, what kind of material action do you got? Is it floating or?
So that's a floating material in the water with a hook on it. It'll be neutral. It'll be sitting perfectly horizontal in the water column.
Nice.
Yeah. So I mean that's one of the things that you lose a lot of with the big brand baits, where they fill it with salt, and then that'll kill the action. It'll just sit limp in the water with the tail down and just sitting like this, right? And nothing in nature sits like that. So, I want to have stuff that'll sit, more natural action and stuff like that.
Yeah, that's interesting. I had my limited experience of bait making. I actually picked up a part-time gig when I was in Athens. Zoom Bait Company's just outside of Athens.
Yep.
And I worked there making plastic worms on they had fancy molds that came down and injected the mold,
Oh yeah. They'll be in a production facility for sure. And it'd be like, 40 cavities of the same thing.
Yeah.
Where I'm sitting and I have maybe 5. Right. So
I know. God, I don't even know how many people they had working. There was 2 shifts. There was probably 20 machines just cranking out plastic.
Oh yeah.
Cranking out plastic. But like you said, they were and I mean, Zoom baits still work. They're good baits.
Oh, yeah.
One of the, again, like, very strange thing is the speed worm. Are you familiar with the speed worm?
Yep.
It's
got that little cut tail, right?
Tail on it like that. That's an effective worm in Florida. Sometimes you can't get them to bite anything but that speed worm down here. But they would jack with that. There was certain, like the trick worms didn't have as much salt, so they didn't want to sink as floaters,
So they'll use 2 parts, right? They'll inject it with salt in the body, but not in the tail.
I can't even remember. I usually made the lizards, but I just know like there was different formulations of plastic. There was like different recipes, and there was one guy who mixed them all. Like it wasn't like you did it.
He knew. He was the only one that knew it.
Mm-hmm.
It's like the Coca-Cola secret or something.
But I know, like, I can remember talking to him and going, like, make sure if you're going to fish a Carolina, don't be afraid to put the trick worm on there because it floats. So to give it buoyancy, use mono and use the trick worm on a Carolina rig, and you'll get some natural buoyancy, and it'll hover up off of the bottom. And that was great advice that I got at 21 years old. I was in a little bass club with those guys too. But yeah, I learned a lot working down at Zoom. Yeah.
I just got Chris Very in the chat asking about the Patriot, and I was literally just opening that one up, and that's a 7-inch ribbon tail.
Oh, nice. Yep. That thing is the hammer down here.
Yeah. So that'll work in. I keep getting messed up with this. There. So I've got a June bug body and a green pearl tail.
Oh, wow. Now, so is that a 2-part process?
It
Do you
is,
have
yeah. I got to inject the tails and then cut them on, and then throw them in the mold, and then re-inject the June bug through as a body.
Oh, wow. Okay.
So it is a bit more
That-
involved, but I mean, the bites that those things get is pretty nuts. You throw that
Yeah.
even on a shaky head,
Yeah.
and let that tail flap up in the water column. If I had to fill my limit, which of his baits am I reaching for? Whew, that's a good question. I mean, there's a lot of different scenarios. Man, if the bite's on, where is it? Do I have any? Oh, there we go.
Yeah. Good to see you, Brendan. I put that up there and didn't mention. Thanks for stopping by, buddy. He's
So
a
I'll
talented
use
bait
this.
maker himself, making wood lures. Check out Brown Bait.
Oh yeah, he makes really good stuff, really cool
Yeah.
stuff. So I'll use this guy, and that's
Yeah.
it's like a grub trailer, but it has so many different applications.
Does
You
it
can
give
throw
it
it
a
on.
kick kind of like
Yeah.
that?
So these tails can come apart too and kick
Yeah.
independently, or you
Yeah.
can rig it sideways on a swim jig head and let
Oh,
that
yeah.
back and forth like a fish tail.
Oh, I bet that looks good on a chatterbait too.
Chatterbait's wicked. Texas rig it and just flip it into some weeds as a more finesse presentation.
Yeah.
Not as many, appendages and stuff like that. It's just a nice little straight down.
Yeah.
You can flip it into holes and stuff like that too, and around wood piles.
Yeah.
I mean, there's so many different things you can do with that. You
Yeah.
can Ned rig it too. So
Good
I think
idea.
just based on the versatility of that, that would be my first one to jump into, and then probably followed by one of these guys, and that's a 3 1/4 inch little swim bait.
Oh, that's what Jeff was just talking about that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's a nice little finesse presentation. Again, you can put that on a bladed jig or a swim jig head, stuff like that. You can put a ball head on it and just drag it across rocks.
Oh,
There's
yeah.
lots of different presentations for that.
That my buddy Mickey fishes that mega bass. He fished a bait like that with that mega bass head, not the one with the propeller. He doesn't like. I like the one with the propeller, but he doesn't like that one. But he likes that mega bass. I don't know what they call it. Head for a swim bait like that. He nails all kinds of species of fish too. Just nails them on that little bait. Yeah. When the going gets tough, those little baits like that can really change your day in a hurry.
Oh, 100%. And then if it's more of a finesse, then I would go with one of these. The Wobblins, super productive. And they'll last you. You don't have to be worrying about switching worms like we talked about every 3 casts. So that's going to keep you getting more bites instead of, more casts and instead of just re-rigging all the time.
There's a lot of fishing like that here. There's so many mats and weeds, vegetation pads. So guys are constantly, Okashira. There you go, Jeff.
Okashira, that was me. Yeah.
That's the one that I was looking at. Yeah, you're right, dude. The Okashira is money. That's a good swim bait head. But yeah, there's a lot of, just pitching 2 holes here. Actually, I saw some old timers in the John boats. Said about a month ago now. They pulled up because the mats will get blown in the wind here. They're not stationary.
Yeah.
And like 100 yards out from the dock, you couldn't even get to the water from the weeds that had been blown this way.
Oh yeah.
So those guys pulled up, and I'm watching them. I was just down at the dock, chilling out, having coffee, and I'm watching them. And he gets out a rake and puts it on about a 10-foot piece of jams it down into about a 10-foot piece of PVC, and then rakes a hole in the weeds. And his buddy's back there with the little dip mat, those little white, that big, for catching bait.
Yeah.
And his buddy's back there pulling the grass shrimp out of the roots, right?
Nice.
And I'm watching this whole process. And then they get those shrimp and drop them down in those holes that they raked. Man, those two old timers, I don't know how many crappie or what do they say? They say crappie in Canada?
Crappie, yeah.
Crappie, yeah.
It depends on where you're from.
Yeah, where I'm from, they say crappie. Up north, they say crappie. If you're from Louisiana, they say succulent. And down here in Florida, they'll call them specks or speckled perch.
Yep.
All the same fish. But man, those guys hammered them, raking holes in the mat like that. And I was like, wow, that's I'm just gonna tuck that, back.
You put that in the memory banks there.
Absolutely, yeah.
You always gotta watch the old timers, see what they're doing.
I like that wacky worm. That to me, that looks like the hammer to me.
That was the #1 seller at the show we just had early April. Yeah. This lasted 2 hours. I had like 70 packs of them and lasted 2 hours.
Wow.
Yeah, they were gone. I had so many people showing up, 11 o'clock, 12 o'clock and asking about them out. They were gone.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
All right.
That blew my mind. I wasn't expecting that at all.
Well, I mean, it's a testament to, the catchability of the baits,
Well, we try.
Make more next time.
That's it. That's the challenge. Is just bring more.
I know, right?
Yeah, and I brought more than double what I brought last year and sold out almost everything.
Yeah, I like that too.
That's insane.
And I saw a trick. I think it was on Tactical Bassin where you put the swim bait on upside down. Have you seen that?
Yeah, I did see that.
Yeah, and it gives a different kick.
Well, in the Great Lakes, that tail upward could resemble a bit of a goby. So you could smack some smallies on the gobies if you're dragging it along the ground. Have a nose down presentation on that. I don't have one of those. I have a goby mimic. It's 2.6 inches.
Oh, nice!
It's perfect size, and you put that on a football jig or a ball head, and just drag it across, count rocks, and just hammer people. Those the smallies on was it Lake Huron have been killing it. Lake Erie will hit it.
Yeah. My understanding is the gobies are invasive, right?
Oh yeah. I mean, it was a big thing for years, and now they're figuring out that all the smallies are just feasting on them, right? So you're getting all these super tanker smallies that are, 7, 8, 9 pounds in the St. Lawrence, and that's what they're all eating.
Yeah. It's like it just depends on your perspective from a fishery standpoint where, it's great for the smallmouth, but all the other fish have been displaced. You've lost a massive amount of diversity. So if you weren't into smallmouth fishing and into other kind of fishing, you might have lost those species of fish.
100%. Yeah. You got to look at the bigger picture, right?
Right. And when you start getting into lakes like that, you're not changing that.
No, that's all natural.
That's staying that way. It's just changed and that's it. But man, the smallies are just units.
Just enormous.
Yeah, I'd like to catch some of those.
Yeah, and there's a lot of the invasive stuff, coming through the Great Lakes and stuff like that. We had the zebra mussels years ago coming through. And they're, they haven't gone anywhere. They're still there. So now it's the gobies that with the last 10, 15 years have been, kind of the next thing, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Now it's the invasive rusty crawfish that they're talking about. In a bunch of these smaller lakes, and there's a big advisement against those.
Yeah, that's interesting. People will always ask me about stocking crawfish, and when I was on Tackle Talk, there was a guy that we did like a bait breakdown.
Dr. Loafman.
Yeah, 4-part series. Yep. Yeah, I mean,
that's an outstanding series. I love listening to that, dude.
Yeah, dude, I learned so much listening to all those other folks. And the one point that he made that stood out to me was, they're still discovering species of crawfish.
Yeah.
They don't even know how many there are yet, right?
Yeah.
And then I took away from that, it's like, okay, so like anything native, like if you go and do a native yard, right, and you do all native plants in your yard, you just made it really easy to maintain your yard because those plants are designed to live in the area where you are.
Right.
So why would you take a crawfish from around here from Louisiana and put
Somewhere
it in
else.
Georgia? It's not. Yeah. How do you know? You don't. There's no research that says the crawfish that are already in your pond aren't more productive than those.
Right. That makes sense.
And I've just had so much experience with guys. They want to, like, there's this whole thing in our country that if you throw money at it, it fixes it.
Yeah.
You know,
it's a popular sentiment everywhere.
Yeah. And that doesn't work in lake and pond management. Now there are plenty of people who will tell you that it does, and they will sell you as much crap as that you could possibly buy. But that's what I like about Sugar Hill is like, we've very basic, you know, we've got a few fish in the pond. It's balanced properly. We feed our bluegill. That's it. Now, of course, we did have naturally occurring crawfish. We have habitat for the crawfish, but we haven't spent a crap load of money stocking supplemental forage like some people.
Right.
Yet our fish are growing faster. And I've noticed that, like, over my 25-year career. It's like, if I owned a pond, I'm not saying I would never stock supplemental forage, but I certainly wouldn't be firing it off in there the way these guys do.
Yeah.
Because when I go do my electrofishing survey, there's no measurable difference between what they've done and what I'm doing. Like, I can't, your fish don't measure bigger. You spent $10,000 or $20,000 more, but what did you get for it?
Yeah.
You know? And of course, I've even had guys say it just makes me feel better. Okay.
To spend all this money on it.
Yeah.
That doesn't make any sense in my world.
No, you know? I don't come from the world of spending money to feel better.
Yeah, exactly.
I come from the world of spending money to keep the bills paid, you know, and when you're firing off $10,000 in crap that's not working, I don't get it. But
no, that's not a recipe for me.
Not me either. So I'm very proud of the page and having Clint, you know, listen. And he hasn't really spent too much money on his pond other than, you know, the construction of it. Pond construction is terribly expensive, but
I can imagine. I'm getting a comment here to pull out the crosser.
Yeah,
we're talking about crawfish.
Let's see. Rusty crawfish. I'm gonna have to look that one up. I've heard of it, but I'm certainly not educated on it.
Here's one of them. Probably not the best color to show up on camera, but that's like a blue craw.
Oh yeah.
And that'll turn more of a brown color in lower light situations.
I'm wondering if this pausing is on my end. I should probably
pause there because it's going now for me.
We're just, I don't know. I think we're getting a little bit of delay. Sorry about the delays, guys. It's probably the weather, but I'm showing like my Wi-Fi is like low, like showing a low bar. I should probably plug a wire into it and hardwire the Wi-Fi in.
I'm just in Wi-Fi too, but mine seems
usually
to be.
It doesn't do this, but usually it's not
raining
like this either. So
that's that frog mimic.
Oh yeah, I like that frog, man. That thing looks good. I bet that thing's
nice little, really low profile. So you put a 3/0 EWG through there.
Yep.
And that has that little hook channel
nice.
To keep that hook more weedless.
You've done your research, man.
I try. Like I said, it's like almost every night of 3-4 months at least. Trying to get stuff.
Thanks, Mike. Appreciate the feedback, man. All right. Let's see. Let's make sure we didn't miss anyone. Oh, he says show the Patriot. Did we do that?
That was that was that ribbon tail.
Okay.
That's the Patriot.
I like the multiple colors, man. That is a dirty trick right there.
Yeah. And there's a black with a chartreuse tail as well. That'll be
really.
Yeah. I just don't have any of one of those.
You sold
I haven't
them
made
all.
any more yet after the show.
What about muskie? You get muskie up there? Do they stock
Yeah, you
those?
have to go a little bit outside of where, I mean, they had one caught in the bay of downtown Toronto.
Really?
Like first one ever, and yeah, that was last summer. But yeah, you get a bunch of muskie up north and out east in the Kawarthas, different sizes and stuff like that. But guys
I'd
are
like
always
to
getting 50-inch,
I hear they're hard to catch.
10,000
that's a good
casts.
idea. Buzzbait trailer on that frog. Ooh, that would be nice.
Buzz toad, whatever it's called. Yeah.
Yeah, the buzz toad. Just ditch the skirt completely. The buzz toad can be a killer.
It can be.
Shaming. Oh, slamming. I'm sorry. I can get my readers
Shaming
on.
some tiger muskie.
Shaming them.
How dare you?
The Detroit River. Yeah, tiger muskie are cool, man. And I was looking at we had another discussion on those. The stocking rates are super low. They're talking like 2 fish per acre. You know? So what kind of aggressive monster is that? You know?
Well, it's a dinosaur. It will clean out any body of water pretty much.
Oh yeah, you better be careful.
And they can get huge too.
He's not buying anything. Yep. He's buying stuff. Yeah,
that's the only kind of lure I like.
I tell you what, Cam, the guys came in here. The elite fishermen came in down the St. John's and into the lake that I live on. And I've got a little pattern that I figured out. You go back in the pads, you can actually get these pads won't snag a jerkbait too badly. And you can run, if you find lanes in the pads, you can run jerkbaits through there. And you've got to absolutely pour the speed to it. There's something about speed and Florida fish. Don't drag anything. If you come to Florida, don't go slow. Light it up. Whatever it is, roll it.
It's aggressive,
Yeah. As soon as I put speed to it, I had like a little 110 junior jerkbait. And I'm fishing it a half an hour, no bites. And then I finally just, try faster. And first cast, literally just as fast as you can snatch and reel, pause, boom, bite.
I know. Are you burning it back to the boat, or you pop?
It's pop, and then pause, and then I'll burn the reel, pause, and then usually after I burn the reel and pause it, I'll snap it up. Like this, sometimes I'll be snapping down. Sometimes I'll be snapping sideways. Sometimes I'll be snapping up. But another thing that I learned too, and that's when I started catching bigger fish, because I could see down into the water, and because the barge canal runs to St. John's and the St. John's runs to the river. So, to the ocean. So it's pretty far, but still we get crabs, shrimp. There's mullet in the lake. Yeah, all kind of saltwater fish in there, gizzard shad in there. And I could see the fish swimming by. I could see them on the live scope thing, and I'm like, what kind of fish are these? And they were shad or they were mullet,
Okay.
But they were big. And I was like, I'm going to go the other way because there's also thread fins in here that are schooling and doing their thing. So that's why I scaled down. But I went to that oversized, I think it was the Mega Bass, or it might have been the Berkeley, but it was a bigger jerkbait. It was the Mega Bass, the bigger one. And I was doing the same thing kind of that I was doing before with the cadence, but I started up. I started watching. I hit the water, cranked it down, got it to depth, and then just started snapping it. And that thing started working like a Zara spook about 3 feet under the water.
Nice.
Completely different action than the other. Yeah. Oh, yeah. And then it didn't take very long, and I had like a nice 3-pounder on. And when most of the fish I was catching were 1.5 pounds too.
Yeah.
So I learned something about
that
on my jerkbait. Different.
Yeah.
It produces different action. And, that's something. I'm not much of a jerkbait fisherman. Usually we got Philip Cheek in here. I don't know if Philip's in here tonight. He's fishing those jerkbaits all the time. He's an expert with them. But I don't have that much experience with them until I moved here, because it's one of the only lures I can get those stupid things to bite. They're so finicky. let's see what Cam's got. He said, oh, really? It's opposite. It's low and slow with an occasional twitch.
More finessey.
Interesting. Yeah. No, it's definitely different here, man. The speed gets them. They're like cats. Yeah, like they fire up.
They need to be. They need to be challenged. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Like I had one that it goes against, like I saw it coming, right? So I had the wrong instinct. My instinct was to pause. Right? Boom,
and
boom,
let
boom.
It catch up to it. Yeah.
Yeah. And I'm like, okay, I'm gonna pause it. And as soon as I paused it, it just
turn away.
Swam away. I saw the direction that it went in, and I threw it that way and just burned it, and bang. It just picked it right up. Yeah. I just didn't even pause it. Just put the speed on it, started snatching, and caught that fish. And I know because I watched the whole thing happen. The water's as clear as this.
Sure. And you can see
out there right now. I can see them in there. Yeah. It was only like maybe 5 feet of water. You could easily see the bottom out there. But
that's interesting. Cam Harris is saying the northern strains up here are a bit more placid. Would that have anything to do with the different species down there being more aggressive?
Oh, God.
Florida strain or something like that?
Yeah, the Floridas are a pain, dude. It's like the one thing I've learned a lot since I've been down here. So, like in that lake is 10,000 acres. There's 7 spring heads that just dump groundwater in, right?
Okay.
And I mean millions of gallons. Like there's springs all around here that flow for 4 or 5 miles as clear as tap
drop
water.
Into that lake. Yeah.
Right. In every direction around here are these springs. So think about that.
That's a lot of water.
You got a fish that evolved in an area that's really significantly influenced by groundwater flow. Millions of gallons on it. So that's going to stabilize the water temperatures way more than like a pond that is getting,
up and down. Yeah.
Doesn't have that kind of flow through it. Not to mention this place is pretty much a river anyway. The water's always flowing. So the Florida shut down on the fronts. It seems like you need stable weather patterns. Like it was bright, it was sunny. It was 2-3 days of kind of even weather. And I can go out there and catch some fish. Today, the front blew in. This was coming. The wind kicked up. I don't even bother going out there, which normally it's the opposite back home in Georgia, where we got North Georgia. We're predominantly the northern strain fish.
Yep.
And you want to fish the weather patterns. You want that wind. You want all that. Here,
they shut down.
Totally different. It's interesting. It's good that they separated the species, Floridas and northerns, because they really are very different fish.
Interesting. Yeah.
But the best fish you can get is when you cross them up and you put a northern with the Florida, you get the F1. Now you've got a completely different kind of monster.
Is there a wham jerk coming? Says Chris Very.
Well, Ant's got one here. There's a big comment here. I'm going to bring it over so I can read it better. Try. In New Hampshire, he's getting smallmouth to chase a jerkbait on a normal retrieve. Yeah. Yep. I know what you mean, man. I had like I was fishing and roasting that thing, and wow. I don't know, had to jack with something on the troll motor or the boat or whatever, but the lure was still out, maybe 20 feet from the boat. But it was a really long pause while I was messing with what I was doing. When I picked the rod back up, the fish was on it.
I like that suspending action where it just sits and it can sit there just perfectly still, right? Those smallies especially nose right up to it. And they, become friends with that thing.
Yeah, I think environmental aspects play into it significantly. As a matter of fact, they taught us at school that barometric pressure changes were the only statistically measurable difference that they could determine, not moon phase. And of course, we're not talking about tidally influenced water either.
Yeah.
Excuse me, but in lakes, the only thing that they could measure a significant increase in bites was changes in barometric pressure.
Now, does that influence what depth they're sitting at?
I think the theory of it was like you get a falling barometer, you get less pressure on the water. Yeah. So they're going to sense that in their lateral line system.
Right.
But I've also seen the other way where a high pressure changes and fires them up too, so I don't know that anybody's even researched it. If they have, I haven't seen it. I just know that barometric pressure changes generally produce more bites.
Right.
Not for me out here.
It's different down there.
It is. And I mean, it's heavily pressured with live bait.
Sure.
Jumbo shiners, and like they'll be on the weekends, there'll be 20, 30 guides out there just whacking them with golden shiners,
with live bait. Yeah.
And I think they bait these holes up. I think they drop like fish food or some kind of food into these areas where the fish generally hold to keep bait in those areas, because this is a very hole-oriented place. Like if you don't know exactly where it looks like everywhere you cast there should be a fish, and it's not like that.
And it's not like that.
Yeah. Cam's saying hybrid vigor. That's exactly right. F1 hybrids really grow. I've got them to 16 inches in a year, stocking them at 40. Well, we stock Northern Floridas in there. The idea with that was one, to dispel the myths of genetics, because whenever anybody starts the conversation with me about genetics, I already know you don't know much about growing bass. You have missed 87 steps before you need to be talking about genetics.
Right.
You need the whole system working right, and then we can talk about genetic expression. If you don't have it set up right, your genetics don't matter.
It doesn't matter. Yeah.
They don't have any concept of the environment. They're making the assumption that you just put bass in water and they all grow at the same rate and everybody gets big. And if you keep putting it back, it's going to grow. And absolutely none of those things are true. So like I said, you've missed the point. If we're leading a trophy bass pond growth discussion with genetics.
Yeah. You started with the right forage in Sugar Hill. You just started bluegill and that was it, right?
Yeah, the bluegill sat there on feed for almost a year. Yeah. And again, we did try to get thread fins established. I do like mixing it. I might try another load this year. We saw some 3-inch bluegill missing in electrofishing survey, and Clint's not opposed because thread fins are expensive. They're like $1,500 or $1,800. They bring 10,000, but it's expensive to stock. Yeah. And again, I've seen it where I've actually seen them die in the winter because the ponds are very shallow and they're warm water fish. So you can lose the whole thread fin population. You can spend $1,500. They do good for one season. Cold winter, boom, dead. You better go get another $1,500. Whereas $1,500 buys a lot of really high quality protein fish food that you can just give your bluegill that are not going to die in the wintertime and don't have any.
Keep them hardy. Yeah.
On the flip side of that, having two different species of forage fish in there, like the bass will get real keyed on bluegill, in bluegill only ponds. So adding that second fish diversifies, improves the topwater bites because the shad are up at the surface a lot more. The shad are schooling, the bluegill are not, and it's a completely different biological fish in there, and it'll change the way the bass move and hunt in those ponds. So that's why I stock those fish. It's not that I'm adding shad, because whatever shad that I add, if I have 1,000 pounds of bluegill that I can support, and then I come and bring in shad, say they establish and there's 300 pounds of shad. Well, now there's 700 pounds of bluegill.
Right.
You haven't added any more forage. You've diversified the forage base, but there's not more pounds of forage for the bass to eat. Does that make sense?
Oh, for sure. Yeah. 100%.
It usually just goes just like that. I'm putting more fish in here and they're going to be more. No, there's not.
That's not how it works. Yeah.
Yeah. It's not how it works at all. All right. Back to the questions. What's Frank up to?
He was driving around with some people playing Uber driver again.
All right, we got Frank. We got the comic relief back up in the chat. Who are you driving around, Frank? Let's see. Cam's got a question. If not mistaken, then the thread fins experience pretty good. Yeah, dude, thread fins are the most finicky. Like I said, I don't know, 50-50. Like I have put them in ponds and watched them just do amazing things. Like, oh my God, you know. And I've also put them in ponds like Sugar Hill Outdoors and watched them completely disappear. Like what happened to them? We don't see them anymore. Like there wasn't even any bass in the pond when we stocked the dadgum things. Why in the hell are they gone? So they're inconsistent. And I don't like inconsistency. Like, again, I could have taken that money, put it into high protein fish feed and gotten very consistent bluegill growth, very consistent bass growth due to that consistent bluegill growth. You know, that's a controllable factor.
That gives you predictable results all the time. You know what's coming.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Cam's got a good one. I don't like stocking anything like no more fish. Like I might add some thread fins to the pond. I might not. That's an acceptable fish for my area. But as far as bringing other fish in from other places, no way, man. I'm going to be bringing diseases. I'm going to be bringing parasites. Don't move fish around like that. Don't move bass around. Like I tell guys all the time, harvest the bass. Okay, well, I'll just take them and stock them someplace else. You're screwing up someplace else.
Yep.
You have no right to screw that guy's lake up. They just can't get that through their head that there's cause and effect. Like I said, we stock thread fins, we're losing bluegill, right? You stock bass into my pond, you just disrupted the balance. Now all the bass in the pond are going to be growing at a slower rate. Cause and effect.
Yep.
Oh, let's see, Frank. What's Frank got going? Daughter, chauffeur and the daughters.
More cultured. Your daughter probably knows that Live and Let Die was first performed by Axl Rose.
Hey, that's a good idea, Kirk. The Shan Chad. My idea on my only contribution to lure making is like what we just talked about, color wise. Like I see kind of the future of bait making, lure making, matching color to water conditions. Like this is what you use in a highland reservoir in super clear waters, these color patterns. Out here at Rodman, when you're super tannic, you need to shift it to blacks, to that worm you just showed with the purple and the green. That would be perfect here. Tannic water color patterns, clear water color patterns, clay water color patterns, things like that. Oh yeah, hellbender. That's what we need, man. We need a hellbender lure like that
13
big.
inches long.
Yeah. Yeah, don't mess around with the newts, man. Just go straight for the 4-pound plastic hellbender.
Yep, that's it.
Going for it all.
I make a 10-inch sluggo. That's as big as I go.
Oh, you do?
Yeah, man.
I would love to have that thing, man.
Well,
that's what I'm talking about.
If you go on Canadian Cowboy Outdoors on Instagram, I made him a couple to bring down to Florida and South Carolina.
Oh,
he brought them down. Yeah, there's one in June bug, I think one in bone.
Perfect.
Yeah, it was pretty cool.
Yeah, dude. I haven't seen it. Is it like a true sluggo kind of thing?
It's
where
a true sluggo. Yeah, it's got the flat on the top or flat on the bottom, and it's got the hook slot right along.
Dude, back in the day, the sluggo was the hammer.
Oh yeah.
When they came out, I haven't fished a sluggo in a while. It is a minute.
It's an old man bait, right?
Heck yeah. I'll fish that sucker through the pads. They'll eat that. I guarantee they'll eat that. Different colors. All right. Let's see. Oh, he's got 18 species. Newts and salamanders from reintroduction. Oh, that's cool, man. Is that like your job, Cam? Do you do that? I've got a story about killing an endangered species accidentally, but I don't think I should tell it.
Is that even legal to share on YouTube?
Yeah, I didn't say that. I was just kidding.
Edit that out.
Edit that out, yeah. It was an honest mistake.
Yeah, it always is.
Yeah, I will. Canadian Cowboy. I was cruising through the tablet right before I came on, and I saw that dude, but I did not take time to look at the 10-inch Sluggo because that's very interesting to me. That's what do you what hook do you recommend with that?
Oh, that's a great question. I mean, I asked him what he was going to use on it, and he was just going to throw it on the biggest EWG that he had. I was thinking, you could throw it on one of those owners as well, the weighted beast hooks, just for the size, right? So it's hard to find anything that fits a 10-inch Sluggo that makes sense without getting into the saltwater stuff.
I got some like 11-aught. I don't think it's EWG, like an offset kind of a worm. I saw them though and grabbed them because I got so many big baits and I fish. I thought, well, that might be a decent hook.
Come in handy at some point.
Yeah, maybe. But yeah, I don't know. Because I would think that for me, well, if you put it on the belly weight, you'd get great diving and snapping off the bottom type of action. But
or
probably
even as
not
a constant retrieve, you get a little bit of a waggle too.
Yeah, just a little wobble. But I think if you scaled it down to just like a regular hook, like a weightless hook, you'll get probably a little more
the hunting.
Yeah, get a little better hunt out of it.
Yeah.
So that's interesting. I never really thought about it that way, but that might be a way to try even just like trick worms and stuff on a belly weighted. Interesting. Good ideas, boy. Mike says he didn't hear anything. Good. I didn't say anything.
You didn't say anything.
I'm not even going to tell you where it was. It wasn't a fish. It wasn't a fish.
There you go.
But yeah, I did it. Guilty. It wasn't my fault. It was we did not cover it in the daily safety report for the sampling trip. Oh, new comments. Here we go. Yeah, I'm just running on a little bit of a delay. Sorry, guys.
No,
at least the storm is chilled out. Whammos.
Yeah, that's the unofficial name for them.
Copper, black, and bone. Uh-oh. You better watch out. Frank's getting upset.
He's getting a little impatient.
Yeah. Yep. The old sand. Man, we used to take sand color. It was what Zoom called sand. Since I worked at Zoom, that's we fished everything Zoom then. But we used to take this because this was way back before all this specialized equipment. So we would Texas rig sand swamp crawlers, which is pretty much just a straight tube worm that they made.
Yep.
Very thin, we consider a finesse presentation now. Texas rig it with a small bullet weight and then take a toothpick and jam it into the bullet weight to pin the bullet weight to the head of the worm, bust off the thing and drop it down and fish it like a shaky head.
Okay.
And of course, never was smart enough to ever think once that, if we could develop a shaky head and make $1 bajillion. But
just let somebody else do it for you.
Yeah. Just go ahead and let somebody else make all that money.
Yeah. Yeah, you could do that with a Wambolt, Chris. I got the 6-inch Wambolt. It's like a finesse worm with a picture like a crossbow bolt, and with the feathers on the back. That's what the tail looks like. It's like a 4-point tail, like a dragon tail almost. But 6 inches long, and the Wambolt Junior is 4.5. You could do the same thing that Shan was just describing.
All right, Cam had a question. Aaron is car. Yeah, the problem like that would be balance. it takes for any predatory fish, like I just know bass numbers because that's what I managed. It takes 10 pounds of forage for one bass to grow 1 pound. So that's why their growth gets affected. When you get so many bass into the pond, there's simply not enough forage because, again, the example that we used with the forage base of 1,000 pounds, and we had 1,000 pounds of bluegill, then we added, thread fins, 300 pounds. Now we got 700 pounds of bluegill and we got 300 pounds. Well, if you add bass into that scenario, you got to take the weight of the bass that's consuming those fish out as well, right? So you still have 1,000 pounds of fish. It doesn't matter how many fish you keep adding into that system. You'll always have 1,000 pounds. It's fixed. So if you had something that was predatory like that, I've seen ponds that are that way. If they're all bass, they'll grow to about 8 or 9 inches. And the one thing that'll tip you, they'll never get bigger. They'll be like 12 years old and 8 inches long because there's no forage for them to consume. Their bodies just instinctively know, stop growing. We don't have food to grow. You're going to starve if you bulk up. So they stunt. They stop growing. And then the other thing, I've had it happen a couple of times. One guy in California and one guy in the Midwest was talking about how these small bass were jumping for dragonflies. They'll start
desperate for food.
Yeah, looking for food sources from any place. And that's
Right.
the only time I'd ever seen that was when there was all predators and no prey, and they're just trying to eat anything.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that's really sad. That's a fish living in starved conditions. That's not being good managers, good stewards of the environment to have situations like that,
Yeah. That's where they need selective harvest.
That particular pond, we just drained and started over. It was way easier.
Oh, yeah.
Chris is asking, would you similarly fish the Wam bolt?
Yeah. Yeah, that's what we were just talking about with the shaky head and the modified shaky head there with that bullet weight.
Yep. I need to get clued into the lingo. Mojo rig. What's a mojo rig, Frank? I'm not sure what a mojo rig. I'm not familiar with a mojo.
That one's a top secret.
Is it?
Yeah.
It's probably how you catch Florida bass. Sure, Cam. Now, see, when you think about it, though, it's a little bit more complex than the way that I explained it. I oversimplified it because when you have bass feeding into a bluegill population or a shad population, the benefits of those two specific species, the thread fins, is they're multiple season spawners. So you get what's called recruitment. As a bass eats a fish, it takes it out of the system, but then there's another fish being born in to replace that fish. So it kind of makes it a little bit more complex than what I just explained, if that makes sense, because your forage base will replace itself, right? So it's not, the bass aren't, if you balance it properly, the bass aren't eating that 700 pounds away and it's going 600, 500, 400. The bass are eating that away and it's being replaced. So that's what I mean when I talk about balance. If you get too many bass, the forage can't replace themselves to the point where the bass can still grow. So we thin the bass population down. That takes some weight off the bass and some hunting pressure off the forage, allows survival, then you get bass growth again. So it's a little bit more complex than what I just described, but it's just general ideas. We don't have to know all this crap like stone cold to go get a PhD. We just need to know enough to go catching some fish.
Michael Bradley, isn't this Mojo a finesse C rig? Yeah, it's a pretty finessey Carolina rig modified.
Mm-hmm. That's another good point Cam's bringing up. Gizzard shad can release a hormone when they overcrowd. They're just like bass can stunt. Their bodies just sense it, and they're like, well, basically what it is a lack of protein intake, and their body just stunts and stops growing. Gizzard shad go the other way. They're so prolific in their spawning that they actually can release a hormone that will shut their spawning down. And I've seen that a few times. So you go in with an electrofishing boat and all you see is jumbo gizzard shad. You don't see any kind of variations of size at all.
Yeah.
It's a clue that they've released that pheromone
to shut everything down.
Yeah, they've shut it down. And then the other clue is they've taken up a bulk of the biomass. That would be the total, like that 1,000 pounds that we're using. We would call that biomass, everything alive. And then you could have like 90% of the biomass is shad, right? So that only leaves 10% to be game fish.
Right.
And that's what you see with the gizzard shad. That's an extreme example, but it can't have. They can go 100. They can wipe them all out. But
sure,
if you can also have a situation too, and I have seen this where the balance is right, and you add gizzard shad, like you have enough 5 pound plus fish that can handle the gizzard shad reproduction, and then you get a turbocharged bass fishery on gizzard shad.
That makes sense.
The key to it is you have to have the bass in place before you put the shad, because they'll shake loose like a monster and just take it over if you don't.
Right.
Yeah, you're not going to get Brendan dragging any worms, I don't think, man. he was I went fishing with him. He lives in Middle Georgia, and I stopped in once and did some fishing. We talked baits. I need to have him on, talk about his bait company. Like old Brendan, he's a good kid. Yeah, good luck with that PhD, man. That ain't me. I couldn't get out of there fast enough. Oh, wow. Interesting. I did not know that.
That's a lot of lanternfish.
That is a lot of fish. The gizzard shad are interesting, man. They don't hurt my feelings. You read in the book like, oh, you don't want them, it'll ruin the lake, and it definitely can. But I wouldn't hesitate to put them. I've done it before, even in ponds as small as an acre. I put gizzard shad in there, and the schools of shad, they don't get quite as big in ponds either. They'll get a pretty decent size, and you'll have big schools of shad about like that in smaller ponds. I've done that a few times. In fact, there was a fancy golf club in Atlanta. What was that called? The Atlanta Athletic Club, I think is what it was called. They hired me. They were changing the golf course and draining the water hazard. And they wanted to move fish. They wanted to do electrofishing to move fish. And I told the guy, this golf course superintendent, and I was like, this piece of equipment samples fish. It's not going to not going to move all the fish out of here. As a matter of fact, we're not going to move like maybe 1 or 2% of the fish out of here. It doesn't catch them all. It's not how that works. And he's like, I don't care. We got a lot of chiefs out here. It's one of the kind of places is like $1 million to get in or whatever,
Yeah.
We just have to make an effort. I was like, okay, an effort I can make. It's like a 4-acre water hole. Put the boat in, listen to a bunch of old guys tell me how to do my job for a while, turn the thing on, and wow. It apparently, because the Chattahoochee River was not far, apparently the river had flooded into the pond and gotten some gizzard shad, or somebody had thrown some gizzard shad in there at some point in time. Gizzard shad got in that pond. Oh my God, 4-acre pond. We took like 62 bass over 4 pounds out of it.
Wow.
It was chocked full. You weren't lying. There was like, that thing was really full of big bass. And of course we just took them up and threw them in another pond. That probably was a bad move, but again, I was just doing what I was told.
Yeah.
It was a good paying gig anyway, but yeah, good learning experience, very young in my career. And that's when I figured out that it's like, okay, these gizzard shad, especially when you're catching, releasing, and you got big fish, aren't doing what the book said that they would do.
Because nature always goes by the book, right?
Yeah, exactly. Well, maybe a few variables in nature they can't account for in the book. You know? I'm not following. Do you understand what he's asking? Acclimation.
That's going to be above my pay grade in terms of the scientific pH shock. Maybe like moving moving
I
fish
think
into
I think he's talking about temperature shock. Okay, so if the water that the fish is in varies by 10 degrees Fahrenheit, I can't even convert that into Celsius. That's how smart I am. But if your live well is 80 or is 90 degrees from fishing all day long, and the water is 80 degrees, and you move the fish, that'll kill them. It'll temp shock them. And that's actually a very humane way to get rid of them on the culls. When I'm culling bass, I'll just get a cooler and a couple bags of ice and ice water in the bottom of the cooler, and just boom it right in, just temp shock them out so they're not flipping around. Just go ahead, gets them cool, gets them easier to clean. Keeps bacteria down, and in my opinion is a humane way of going about doing it. So when I'm harvesting fish, I'll just temp shock them out. Upstream from Lake St. Clair. Oh, on the baby gizzards, yeah, dude. Those, and always in the flow with the gizzards, man. And especially on your lakes, if you can find pipes, stormwater pipes coming in.
Yeah, that's what we always look for in small ponds and stuff like that, is the water flowing in. Uh-oh. We may have just lost Shan. Okay. Does anybody have any bait questions while we wait to see if this resolves? You got shocked. Yeah, way to go, Cam. It is the West Show now, yeah. Sorry. My apologies to everybody. Showcase product. Yeah, let's showcase product. I mean, I can talk about my own stuff, or I can talk about all the great stuff from makers in Southern Ontario that we have. Let's do that. That guy there is AP Custom Baits. He's out of St. Catharines. That's a nice little square bill. So check him out. What else do I got out here? Jacked up jigs. If you're looking for jigs. Tough to see in the package. Let me open that up. I haven't even unpacked all this stuff from CanCast. It's a nice little swim jig. There we go. Golden shiner pattern. So that's Jacked Up Jigs, Sheldon. He's out of the Ottawa area. You can check him out too. Makes awesome stuff. What else do I got? Let's see what else is in the old box here. Got a couple from Carson at Dangle Baits. He's a really wicked lure painter. And this is like a 110 style jerk bait. Just a natural perch pattern. And then this is more like a fire tigery perch pattern that he did. Frank, I can't highlight your question, but how many profiles will be available on my website as opposed to Great Canadian Fishing Store? That's a great question. I haven't really nailed down a great number yet. But I think most of my best movers will be featured on the Great Canadian Fishing Store, and there's going to be a good reason for that. So keep your eyes out keep your eyes open for in maybe a few days, up to a week, and we're going to post a pretty cool announcement that I'm happy to be a part of. I'm really excited about it. Have I ever fished the Great Lakes? I don't have a boat. I just got a kayak last summer, so I haven't fished a whole lot of the Great Lakes. Let's see. St. Catharines used to row there. Yeah, they have a big rowing club there. Shore fishing in Erie. Yeah, I could definitely see that. There's lots of good places to shore fish Erie and some of the waterways like the Welland Canal and stuff like that. Let's see if yeah, Shan just said he lost internet. I mean, if anybody has any questions, maybe I will take a few minutes just to show off some stuff. I don't know. What else other people want to talk about, or if we just kill it. I mean, it's been an hour and a half, so we can do that too. That's one of the new things too. That's the Scorpio in a bubblegum color. That little tail, it's wicked action. Yeah, Frank, the stream might be ending soon. There was another new one that came out at the show earlier this month. This is the Wammunition. And that's just a little kind of a beaver flipping bait. Nice little compact profile, 3.5 inches long. And that paddle can separate as well. Get a nice little flap action on that. And I think the last of the new stuff. The Wamalam. That's a 3-inch kind of a Ned bait with a little bit of a little texture on that. If you can see that there. So you put that on just a little Ned, finesse head. And that's just a nice little Ned kind of do nothing bait. Yeah, that's about it for new stuff that I have coming out. But check out Great Canadian Fishing Store for a bunch of stuff that I have coming over there. Check out wambaits.ca. It's getting restocked as we speak. Not as we speak right now, but in a little bit it will be. That was the one I was talking to Shan about earlier. That's the Wamphibian. Nice little 3.5 to 5 inch frog mimic. And yeah, I guess that might do it for the stream. So unless anybody has anything else, I'll just thank you to you guys for showing up. Thank you to Shan for having me on. And yeah, it's been a blast. And I guess we'll catch you a little bit later. Check out Wambaits on Instagram. And yeah, shoot me a message if you have any questions. Thank you very much, everybody.